Let's talk about South America's highest viewpoint. I recently visited the Sky Costanera, located at the top of Chile's tallest building. And let me tell you, it's one of the best I've been to. I say this having been to even taller ones like the Burj Khalifa in Dubai and the Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur, or others of similar heights like the Shard in London or the Eureka Tower in Melbourne. I must admit I hesitated to go many times, thinking it wasn't worth the price. I paid for it though. I remember when the entrance fee was around $10 US. Now it's $18 for adults and $6 for kids. Of course, you have to pay in local currency, Chilean pesos. Why is this tower so important? Because this 300-meter-tall skyscraper, in addition to being the tallest in Chile, was the tallest in Latin America until the inauguration of the Torre Obispado in Mexico in 2020. In other words, it held the title for 7 years. And it's still the third tallest in the Southern Hemisphere, after the Queensland No. 1 and the Australia 1U8, both in Australia. It also dethroned Chile's previous tallest building, the Titanium La Portata, which held the title for a brief 3 years. That tower is located 500 meters away, and although it's a respectable 205 meters tall, it looks quite small in comparison. The Sky Costanera is the observation deck located on the 2 highest floors of the tower, and it has the unique feature of being a 360-degree viewpoint, so you can literally turn around and see Santiago and the Andes Mountains from all angles. Additionally, the observation deck has floor-to-ceiling windows, meaning the only thing that can obstruct your view is nature. For example, the reflection of the sun, which ruined several of my videos, or smog, which was absent this time, allowing me to enjoy these spectacular views. When I visited, I entered on the 5th floor, but now the entrance is on the ground floor. The service is quick, although like me, you might have trouble figuring out how to scan your ticket. To reach the observation deck, you take one of the high-speed elevators that travels at 6.6 meters per second. Once inside, you can enjoy both levels of the observation deck, and both are included in the same price. Its lowest level is on the 61st floor of the tower, and you can conveniently access the 62nd floor via an escalator. This floor has the unique feature of being open air and is also the highest floor of the building and of Chile and South America. And don't let the open air part scare you, because the enormous glass walls keep it adequately protected from the elements. Now, anyone would say that building such a tall building in a seismic country like Chile is not a very good idea. I would say so too. At the very least, I would say it's a bit of a risky idea. But when your name is Horst Paulman and you own Cenco Sud, a multinational consortium of Chilean origin, you can spend on risky ideas. This one in particular cost $600 million, which allowed for a special design to withstand earthquakes with special seismic dampers. When we visited, a staff member told us that the design was so good that an earthquake would be felt less at the top than down in the mall, something I'm grateful I haven't had to verify in person. But what is verified is that the tower was almost finished during the 8.8 magnitude earthquake in 2010, and it survived without structural damage. So, why do I think this is one of the best viewpoints in the world? Basically for two reasons: the Andes mountain range and the height of the surrounding buildings. First, the effect of the Andean mountain range is undeniable, and on a clear day, it's clearly the star of the show. You can see how it stretches along one side of Santiago, and how this city of 8.4 million inhabitants looks truly insignificant compared to the majesty of the mountains. And that's priceless. The very tower we're standing in looks humble in the face of that natural colossus. And if you're lucky enough to see a snow-capped mountain range, the experience is even more impressive. The other point, and this is more subjective, is the relative height of the rest of the city. As I said, I've been to the Burj Khalifa a few times, which at 828 meters is the tallest building in the world. And I've also climbed the Petronas Towers, which are 452 meters tall, but they're surrounded by so many tall buildings that the impact of their height is lost. I remember going to the Burj Khalifa for the first time in 2016 and being almost alone there. Its height was much more overwhelming than it is now that it has more skyscrapers around it. However, this case is different. Here, the tallest nearby building is the Titanium Tower, which is about a third shorter. And the rest of the buildings don't even compare, which makes the Gran Torre Costanera stand out even more. Just like you, as you look out from it. It's like being on a platform in the sky, looking down at a miniature city. And although I must admit that Santiago is much less impressive than Kuala Lumpur city center or downtown Dubai, this perspective is exactly what I expect from this kind of viewpoint. But hey, judge for yourselves. Whether or not it's your first time visiting a viewpoint, I promise you won't regret it. Now there are a few more things about the Sky Costanera that I'd like to highlight before I finish. Besides seeing, for the umpteenth time, how small the Titanium Tower looks in comparison, I found out that the Mapocho River, which is channeled in almost all of Santiago, begins its channeling right at this point, since the Costanera above is in an almost natural state. And I could also see that this river carries much less water than what is seen further down, because it is right at the height of the Cenco Costanera, where the Mapocho receives the waters of the San Carlos Canal, from where it gets a large part of its flow. And maybe if you're from Santiago, you already knew this, but I didn't, and I found it interesting. And later, returning to the first floor of the viewpoint, there are other things worth noting. Something I liked is this replica of the tower, inside the tower, so you remember where you are. And while it's not an original idea, because other viewpoints have something similar, in practice it works, and a lot of people take their souvenir photos next to it with the impressive views in the background. There are also tables for kids to entertain themselves while their parents continue to be mesmerized by the mountains. But look at them! And there's also this installation that tells you what are the main points that can be observed from here, so you can put a name to what you see. And if you want something more modern, you can also scan these QR codes with your phone to find out the same thing but with augmented reality. And finally, when you've had your fill of looking at Santiago in the mountains, you can go to the Sky 300 Bar and Coffee, which is on this floor. The service and food were good, and although it's not cheap, It's not expensive by Chilean standards either, because this country is very expensive. And that's it. Then you just have to go back down to that same city that looked like a miniature.